Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. Saturday afternoon special, winging its way to you from the sunny shores of the UK to make up for last week's lack of a second cast. It's the third one of the week. I'm nothing if not a man of my word, at least when it suits me at any rate. First of all, before we roll out with the action, a quick request on behalf of myself this time. I know I've said it many times before. Guys, first of all, thank you so much for all the replays you send in. It really helps when I have a sort of a breadth and a depth of content to draw on when it comes to selecting replays. But please, 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 pretty please, with all of the cherries, bananas and toffee topping on the top, could you please remember to check them for desyncs before you send them in. There is nothing more frustrating than getting 35 minutes through a replay thinking, this is great, this has got potential, I'm going to cast this, everyone's going to love this, and then it comes out with a desync. For those of you that don't know about desyncs and why we just can't cast them, well, yes, it might pop up, you might think, oh, it's just a little box for the last, whatever, 5 minutes of the game, what's it matter? It matters because after the desync, 9 times out of 10, it alters the events that actually happened in the game. So you don't know that if what we're watching actually happens. And also it's annoying to have this box pop up. So, I mean, potentially if the box pops up and it's like 10, 15, 20 seconds away from the end, whatever, and it's obvious that the game is over anyway, it's not going to change the result, then yes, I might consider it. But otherwise, I just point blank won't. So please, please do me a favor and check those before sending them in. Alright, that's enough of the groveling. We can get on with today's action. It's going to be a custom 4v4, and that's going to go down on 4v4 ISIS. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. So it's a 4v4 ISIS match. Expect an awful lot of turtling. Sorry if that's not your bag, but it's some of our bags, and I'm one of those people that likes that kind of bag, so we have to have these every now and again. It is a necessary poison. Let's take a look at our players. We'll call this Team 1 over here on the far left, and this Team 2 over here on the far right. Going first for Team 1, right up here at the top left, he's chosen UEF, which means he has fantastic, phenomenal taste. It's Shadow Israel, or Shadow as we will be referring to him for the course of this one. He's going Halib Orange, he's open first land and going second air. Down here to his right, already on the move, it's the winner of this week's Understated Name Award. He blatantly just picked his own initials out and threw them down there. It's SJ Andrew, and he's also going UEF. Well done to you, sir. Opening first land, going second land there as well. Down here, team member number 3. We're going to slow this up because we've already got units moving towards the middle. We've got Scipio 420. He's gone Seraphim in electric blue, and he's opened first land. And last but not least, down here in the corner, it's Isajan, and he has gone Regal Purple. Cybrin, never mind, better luck next time, and he's opened first land. So let's take a look at Team 2. Up here at the top right in baby blue, we have Heretic, or rather more likely the way it's spelled, Heretic, and he is going Aeon, opening first land. Next to him in mellow yellow we have Pock, and he's gone UEF, opening first land and going second land there as well. Team member number 3 for Team 2 in burgundy red we have Shio, and he is going Seraphim, opening first land. And last but not least, down here my good friend Olex in his ever so customary baby pink, going UEF, opening first land and then going second air. So that is how these guys are stacking up. We've already got a couple of scouts out here. Looking at the teams then as we do a quick roundup. So we've got 2 UEF, a Cybrin and a Seraphim for Team 1. And then for Team 2 over here, we've got an Aeon, 2 UEF and a Seraphim. So the only differentials there are the one team's got an Aeon and the other one's got a Cybrin. Otherwise pretty much similar on that front. So 2 Selens out there for Scipio, or Scipio 420 I should say. We've got a scout plane coming out there for Olex. He will not of course see that Selen. It will most likely be cloaked up. We've got engineers moving out for both parties, but no, well actually I was about to say no ACUs as yet. We do have an ACU on the move there for Team 2. Pock bringing his ACU out of his base, but he's a little bit further behind in comparison to Team 1, already making their moves for the central reservation there. These corners, of course, 4v4 ISIS doesn't have all of the wrecks in the channels there to reclaim, so no added bonus for getting there first, but there are of course these larger rocks down here you can get your hands, your mitts on. That's going to give a nice little bit of a boost for you and your team. But T1 Bomb is out now for Olex, going after engineers from Scipio. That finally gets shot down by an interceptor from Isagen. Meanwhile, over here, there was that Selen that was causing problems there from Scipio, but that seems to have been reclaimed now by that NG there from Olex. Nice work from him. Andrew not electing to set up shop directly in the channel there. In fact, he's going to start a little bit further back, throw down a factory there with his commander. Olex is going to throw down a factory right at the central reservation with that forward engineer that we saw earlier. Scipio moving forward. We've also got Isagen moving out with his comm as well. A little bit of a patrol order set up there with that comm from Scipio, trying to get as much reclaim in as possible. Meanwhile, we've got an upgrade going down on POC's ACU in the center here on Team 2's side of the map. Take a look at what that is in just a second. Large air engagement kicking off in the middle of the map now between what is essentially Olex and Isagen and Scipio. Went bad initially for Olex. Too many numbers on there for Team 1. And now Shio's come in to join the fight as well. Again, not going well for Team 2. They're just drifting into this battle in drips and drabs and getting picked off by the larger group of force here from Team 1. Three-way air battle from Team 1 comprising of Scipio, Isagen and Shadow. That's a man right there who is very worried about getting collateral damage from early T1 bombers. That's some very wide spacing there on behalf of those T1 P-Gens. T1 bomber there from Shadow, falling foul of Heretics. Intis sitting just their side of the central reservation there. And now things start to be slowing down just a little bit. Olex grabbing himself a second land factory on the eastern edge of the reservation there. Isagen going to back off slightly, and not a lot of building going on over here for Team 1. We slow this up a little bit and try and determine where these guys are ploughing their mass. It certainly isn't into development on the ground. You've got absolutely nothing going on down here. Andrew has set up shop quite nicely up here, has a little bit of a base going, but you compare that to Team 2, who really have moved forward and plonked down a lot of production capacity down here. Both Olex and POC throwing down 7 land factories between them. We've also got the odd bit of static defense littered around here from Shio. That is in stark contrast there to our players from Team 1 who are sitting further back. We have got T2 on the field though for Scipio. How does that compare to Team 2? Well, Olex getting T2 as well, 75% complete on that land factory. We have T2 there for POC, and we're getting T2 air there for Heretic up at the top. Doesn't look like we have T2 air on the way for Shadow or anything like that, so we could potentially have a bit of an air mismatch on the cards here. Up until now it's been firmly in Team 1's corner, the air game. Olex bringing in Intis to that pile of interceptors, and in fact table has been turned. Olex now looking pretty strong down there with support from Heretic, so pretty good air coverage, no doubt in no small part to the static D that's gone up. We've got a Seraphim and a UEF anti-air turret down there at that portion of the map for Team 2. POC now walking forward with his ACU. He's going to run head first into a triad, but a quick overcharge deals a decent amount of damage and gets that off the card. Andrew is working on getting a T1 PD together with some build capacity further back, but POC is going to just stroll right up to that with his upgraded gun. So that was the upgrade that we would have seen going on there earlier. Just checking he hasn't got anything else on there. Well, he has got T2 tech and gun. You've been able to tell that just by looking at the hit points. 15,000 hit points at full health. So he has a pretty solid advantage over Andrew, who seems to just be sitting on T2 tech on that commander for the moment. Finishes off the T1 PD. But an awful lot of yellow reinforcements pouring into the breach now from POC. Andrew getting himself a little bit cut off here, has a few troops further up, but now a large group of Intis come in from Heretic to support. Takes out that T1 bomber that was coming in from Scipio. Some build capacity further back belonging to Shadows trying to finish off a T1 PD, but once again POC denies that. We've got a real eclectic mix of players here in terms of rating as well. So a few key players like Izagin and Olex up at the 1800s. Oh, we've got the odd 1600, a 1500 in there, and the rest are Joes. So it's a nice mix. We've got an upgrade going down on Izagin's comm there. But this is definitely a win on the ground for POC, who grabs himself a little bit of intel before promptly starting work on some static defense. Up goes the railgun first of all, and then you can start work on a T1 PD, and that represents the end of Andrew's forward base there. Andrew is trying a little bit of a counter PD creep to get back in control of that area of the map. One triad operational, another one on the way. Shadow bringing in his ACU to assist. But now we've got a TAC missile launcher operational down here from Shadow. Already has managed to take out one Mex from Izagin. Another TAC missile is coming, this time for the Hydro. Only one needed to deal with that. What does that do to Izagin's power? Well, it has bottlenecked him ever so slightly. You can see him just running out there, so not at the stage where he can afford to lose the Hydro. Needs to get back on top of power ASAP. Zappa operational, another TMD operational from Scipio up here, so we shouldn't see any more TAC missiles breaking through down here unless they can deal with that TMD. And the creep hasn't really continued too much. Andrew content for the moment to sit back and secure this area. Doesn't want to try and wrestle control of the breach back from POC, who is busy getting some shield coverage up. Already has the stealth gen in place, and what is quite a large amount of build capacity and T1 support moving into the breach now. But we've got a good 3 T1 land factories operational and a T1 air as well. 2 more land factories on the way. But this is definitely going Team 2's way so far in this one. The first 12 minutes of the game nearly gone. The breach on the bottom firmly in Team 2's control. The mexes in front of them also belonging there to Olex. Top breach as well, obviously well under their control. Buzzkills trying to contend with tactical missile fire, and also fire coming in from some flapjacks here. Mobile missile launchers on the scene now for POC. But look at this drop that's been prepared. Heretic going in en masse, cleans the air out first of all with a pass over the top with his interceptors. We're going to have a wave of T1 bombers coming in for Shio. He's not happy about the timing. He's withdrawn those for the moment. We're going to see a second command come out. Well, this time it's actually going to go down the bottom. He sees where the Air Force for Team 1 is going, coming up to cover this portion of the map that's left a large door wide open, and there really isn't a lot in terms of anti-air. He needs to be a little bit careful. There is a burst master further back, so he needs to drop it in this area and quickly. If he flies too far over the top, that T1 on board is going to get absolutely shredded. We do also have a T1 a little bit further back. And there goes that transport full of T1 artillery, those fervors, but all of the rest land successfully. Shio asking Heretic to kill off the tactical missile defense so he can continue to assault with that TML that's just right of the central reservation, and it looks like he's managed to achieve that. Definitely needs to deal with the T2 P-Gen if he can, but in comes a Stinger and an Otham, and comfortably deals with the rest of that, keeping that T2 power generator online. However, we do now have TAC missiles inbound. The first one's going to go straight after that recently reconstructed T2 mechs. That has been taken out. The next one looks like it could be coming in on the trajectory for that T2 P-Gen. It might actually going a little bit deeper, in fact. And that's a shame, actually, because if he'd have brought it in for that P-Gen, he would have managed to hit his target before that Zapper could have taken it out. But all of these things you're just not to know. More TAC missiles coming in. We'll go back to that in just a second. He has managed to take out another core T2 mechs, but Pock, meanwhile, up here is making an assault 1v2 with his ACU. Very, very confident indeed. Overcharges into the pack, killing some units, taking a good chunk of health off that Triad. And we've also got pillars rolling in as well. They need to deal with the T2 shield gens. The northern one covering Shadow's position is down. The other one next to Andrew still operational, but in comes another drop from Heretic. Down they go. If you can get it off in time, there's not a lot of health on board that transport, but they do manage to make landfall. Overcharge from Andrew deals with almost all of those fervors in one go. Down goes the shield gen, though, and once again, Andrew finds himself in a precarious forward position. Shadow under pressure as well. He's got about 8,500 hit points left on his comm. Pock has taken quite a bit of damage, but has 10.8 thousand hit points on his commander. He's looking pretty chunky now when he's at full health. 18,000 hit points potentially on that commander. But it looks like they might be able to hold this. Pock trying another push. Has got some more pillars with him. But otherwise, elsewhere on the map, not a great deal going on. TMD has been reconstructed down here, so not much else in danger. And in fact, I think Shio has reclaimed that TML. But coming back to the fight up here, Pock getting underneath the shield again. Wants to deal with that shield gen. There it goes. Couple of shots. And it's done. Shadow just trying to get as much T1 PD in place as he can. Now Otham's rolling in there from Scipio. And as long as he keeps away from Pock, he should be able to dish out some damage to this facility up here, which they really need to do. Cannot afford to have Pock reinforcing the position so close to the front line like that. You can see, you might be wondering, why isn't he going after the ACU? Well, it's quite simply only a couple of them there. As chunky as the Othams are, that is not going to be difficult for Pock to overcharge. And that's what he's trying to do there. Comes in, deals with one of them. The Otham can come in and take out that Triad. Should be able to take out a few of these T1 factories at least, but it is now 3-on-1. Isagen brings in his ACU as well. Surely between the three of them, they should be able to get enough point defense together to see Pock away, who's been incredibly aggressive in the first quarter of an hour of this match. 53 kills on that ACU so far. 12,000 hit points remain. That is definitely where all of the action is at the moment. I'm surprised we're not seeing these Stingers being brought in to apply a little bit of extra pressure, but look at this. We've got a shocker on the field from Heretic, so he's transitioned to T3 Air. That is the last thing Team 1 need right now, is a strap bomber push, but we do have some ASFs on the field, so Isagen is keeping place with the air tech nicely. By the time that bomber arrived, he was ready for it. And look, we're actually getting Mercies being produced now from Heretic, who can smell with all of the commanders, the OCUs over here for Team 1, potentially a snipe on the cards. Olex dropping in with some build capacity. Needs to be a little bit careful. This is a very different looking battlefield from the one just moments ago. And down they go. Not sure what that was about. Obviously going to be trying to get in there and get his hands on some of that mass, but it was a futile attempt in the end. And with POC withdrawing, I think we're going to see the end of that little push. Those T1 factories doomed, and it looks like POC is consigned to that. No more offensive units being built out of that. Just a couple of NGs to try and scoop up the last bit of mass that he can. And the new batch of Othams from Scipio have been dispatched to clean out Olex from this portion of the map. So ultimately, as often happens in ISIS, the game has more or less normalized, and while Andrew deals with those factories, and in fact they've been control K'd there from POC, you can take a very quick look at the eco situation. Out in front is Izagin on 139. That's suddenly jumped there. Second place we've got Shadow, and he's on 120. Olex on 102 and Shio on 101. So really, despite all of that pressure, eco-wise, T1's actually ahead. That often happens when you've got such sustained applied pressure and you're still not managing to break through. Your opponent is funneling his mass elsewhere, and that's usually into eco. Andrew's going to get an upgrade on his commander out here at the front. Shadow also going to do the same. That's quite a lot of comprehensive shield coverage they've got up there now in that portion of the map. But an Ethota underway down here from Shio. Lots and lots of support from Olex in the construction of that. That is nearly complete, and that could be a massive danger to Team 1, who really doesn't have a great deal on in terms of static defense down here. And in terms of mobile ground-based firepower, currently we're only looking at 6 Othams. That won't last too long against an Ethota. And now the turtleage begins. Time to tech up, get weapons, try and scare your enemy into capitulation. But those flapjacks we saw a little bit earlier, now moving to the central reservation there, and not managing to kill that radar. What on earth is going on there? That is extraordinary. How many missiles falling short? They're clearly targeting that missile launch, that radar system, those missile launchers, clearly going for it, but for some reason, presumably because the height map is playing havoc with the missile's descent, they're dropping short and they don't have any AoE on board, I guess. Finally one connects. I don't know what was going on there. Very strange stuff indeed. So Intel will be a little bit hampered by that. That was a T2. We do have T1s nearby belonging to Olex, but that Ethota operational now and steaming its way towards Team 1's base area. Now, both Shadow and Andrew are up here with their commanders. Andrew does have the shield on his comm there, so that's a pretty chunky defensive looking commander, and he's working on Ravagers. Shadow looking, by contrast, distinctly vulnerable as he runs away. Does he have air tech? Yes, he does. I think at this point, rather than broadswords, I will be working on a T2 transport to try and evac my commander. However, that is a dangerous proposition when you've got ASFs belonging to Heretype flying overhead, but he's certainly running out of time. Olex senses the fact that he's cornered an ACU here, wants to get a kill. Andrew has got a couple of those Ravagers operational, but the trouble is now absorbing Ravager fire in the back from POC, who's renewed his advance. He also has the shield on board, but Shadow is well and truly cornered. The Uthota is going to grab a kill here. No chance of escape. So Olex scalps his first victim in this. Shadow Israel ejected from the game at 22 minutes and 22 seconds. And now Team 1 go behind. And what's worse, Andrew finds himself sandwiched between an advancing PD creep from POC and an experimental assault bot from Olex. He's got a little bit of time here because of that shield. A couple of overcharges might be able to deal with this. I think he's going to be able to manage it. Look at that. Huge overcharge into the torso of the bot, and down it goes, but he's going to have to continue his retreat now. The Ion Storm will indiscriminately engage everything in its path. Silver Lining, it picks off the odd unit that's advancing from POC, but once again, POC making his way forward, and look at that. Ravager almost insta-built there. This is not looking good for Team 1 at all. Andrew in full retreat, and what's worse, it looks like POC is going to get his hands on that assault bot mass from Olex. Once again, the action subsides. Shio and Olex reinforcing their position a little bit further back. Just see the conversation going down in local chat there. Shadow telling his teammates to go for T3 Arty. Olex preferring the Fat Boy. But a very timely produced Monkey Lord advances on POC's forward position. POC, of course, with that huge hit point buffer. And backed up by Ravagers. Not going to find that too much of a chore as well. It did deplete his shields. But just yet another potential mass gift for POC, who's advancing nicely here in the first half an hour of this game. And a little bit of a drop at the back here. Proxy base from Heretyke. It has been spotted though by Andrew, sorry. He's managed to get one Percival on the scene. Down goes the land factory. Surely the Oblivion turrets need to go down next. He's working on the T2 engineers, doesn't want any more of those PDs being built. It tanks those T2 PDs very nicely indeed. And Andrew going to do his best to get a Fat Boy operational. He's got a lot of reclaim to draw on, of course, because of the loss of Shadow's base up here. Another drop. This time it's Blazes, so no more build capacity in that one. Heretyke could be about to lose all of them if he doesn't move them pretty swiftly. The next Monkey Lord online and up the front there for Izagin, eating a single Ravager's fire before he decides to move it back. And that is incredibly annoying for Andrew. Clink Hammer operational, just the one. POC decides he doesn't have to be OTT with it, but a wave of mercies coming in now from Heretyke depletes Andrew's shield. Andrew desperately trying to make it for shield cover. Another one goes in, doesn't manage to kill the comm, but does take out the stealth gen right by the edge of the shield there. Another shield gen on the way. That Fat Boy is taking long-range artillery fire. If I was Andrew, I'd be worried about the trajectory of that. I'd be wanting to get another shield gen up here, try and block that. That would be such a shame to lose that Fat Boy. You see all the build capacity coming in, recycling that Ethota wreck now from Olex, all going into Poc's coffers. As we take another look at Eco, so we've got 229 out in front there for Isagen, 203 for Heretyke, 201 for Shio, and Olex on 184, 168 for Scipio, and Poc on 109. That shows you just how much work he's been putting into harassment. Certainly will be thankful for all of that mass he's managing to scoop up now. But look at this. That is, so what, 3 clink hammers now? About to be 4 and soon to be 5. And if Andrew doesn't get a new shield gen up there quickly, there's no way he's going to be able to hang on to that Fat Boy. Ultimately managed to deal with the drops coming in at the back from Heretyke. And now we're seeing support commanders on the field from Olex, Quantum Gateway up front at the reservation there. A lot of joint ecoing going on at the back for Shio and Olex, who are working quite nicely as a team. And another Ethota on the scene. This time it's Scipio for Team 1. Now, look how many times that Fat Boy's been hit. You can see how few hit points are on it. Just 3,800 to eat another round of T2R3. And yet, the construction's almost completed. And finally, Andrew decides to go for an extra shield gen. It instantly gets killed off. Oh my god. And he loses it. Brutal stuff. So all of that mass wasted. Andrew decides to go for it again, but this time in a slightly better location using the shield coverage he's got. We've got a bit of an assault here from Team 1. Percival's from Andrew. Spider bot there from Isagen, and an Ethota being brought in from Scipio. Another drop coming in from Heretyke. But that's not going to make it. Isagen is nice and quick with the response from his ASFs. But Poc is very far forward indeed. Yes, he's got Ravagers, but they're not in a wedge. They're not in a defensive position to properly counter these experimentals. So he's going to have to keep moving out of there. He brought in a T2 transport. I think he was thinking about evacuating his commander, but he needs to be really careful here. There's a lot of firepower combined from that chicken and that spider. Down go most of the T2 shield gens. In fact, they've been auto-paused, and I think that's Eco Mod that's doing that to him. He cannot retreat back over there. And that's what you get. Shield becoming an issue. You can see everything was paused there, and Poc gets ejected from the game almost on the dot of 30 minutes. So there we go. That's suddenly evened things up in terms of player count. Of course, Poc wasn't bringing in a huge amount of eco, but certainly the pressure has eased up front there for Team 1. Andrew will be thrilled that that has been taken care of. Olex airdropping 3 support commanders in from a Continental there. They will be more than enough to deal with that badly wounded Monkey Lord. And now it's a large chunk of mass they're going to be able to hoover right back up. In fact, all of Poc's assets, more or less, were up here. There wasn't a great deal back here. So Olex going to do pretty well out of that in terms of reclaim. And now we're thinned out on players. We can take a look at how things have gone in the reclaim side of things. So 13,300 for Isagen, Olex on 14,000, Shio on 5,000. Heretyke from 3,000. Andrew on 55,000, capitalizing enormously, of course, on the death of Shadow there. And Scipio on 7,000. Pock had done pretty well on 50,000 before he died, of course, picking up a lot of that from the experimentals and all of the counter pushing and pushing that he'd been able to make work for him up here at the channel. Another Ethota underway there for Shio. Fat Boy complete there for Olex. Megalith under construction up at the front there for Izagin. Can't see any nukes underway as yet from either player. Do have some anti-nuke there from Shio, so scouting has been good for Team 1. Be aware not to go down that route, at least in terms of trying to score an early base hit with a nuke. And we've also got SMD in place there for Izagin as well. No missile loaded as yet. And now it's Olex's turn to set up shop up here. Team 1 just cannot seem to keep their opponents out of this position. Another Monkey Lord coming in now from Izagin. We've got a couple of triads in here and about 3 support commanders and a new Ravager recently constructed. That laser does an awful lot of damage if it can connect, but Olex doing a nice job of strafing it there. Cybran have real issues when it comes to tracking. It wasn't a great idea to make their centrifuges out of cardboard, but that's Dr. Brackman for you. And we've got a Fat Boy that's finally completed there for Andrew. He'll be thrilled to have a little bit of long-range firepower at his disposal. But we're going to have a little bit of a trade-off now between the 2 Fat Boys on the field, both with build capacity nearby and both with some shield coverage as well. It's going to be really, really close. Actually looks like Olex not primaring that Fat Boy for Andrew and taking a little bit of damage there as shields collapse. The strafing is pretty good. Support commanders trying to get another shield gen online, but don't manage it as the Fat Boy tucks in behind it. Structure's destroyed. But the Fat Boy from Andrew just rolls out of range. So still the trading continues, and the support commanders from Olex getting a little bit of a shield creep on towards the direction of Andrew's base. And now the shield has gone down on Andrew's Fat Boy as well. We do have a Megalith coming in though from Izagin. One of the support commanders there for Olex goes down. That Fat Boy sitting right on top of a T2 P-Gen as well. It's going to add extra damage when that goes up. And down goes Andrew's Fat Boy. Olex retains his, however, Megalith inbound. But also another Ethota inbound there from Olex. That control transferred over from Shio. Those two still working nicely together. Down goes Olex's Fat Boy shield, but at the worst possible time, the Megalith switches up to engaging the support commanders. Assist pings from other members of Team 1 goes down to say, kill the Fat Boy for the love of God, and he does do it. But now he finds himself being engaged by 3 support commanders and an Ethota. Backtracks a little bit, but then turns. I think that was a mistake. He should have just kept backtracking the whole way. Might have got caught up with his micro a little bit there. Another Ethota coming in, this time from Scipio. So we really are trading experimentals at this point. Down goes the megalith. Needs to prioritize the chicken belonging to Oleg, Scipio, and then worry about the support commanders. A little bit of Percival fire coming in from the north there from Andrew. And it's actually missing somehow. That's not good. And the 2 Ethotas die almost simultaneously, leaving just those support commanders to dodge the incoming fire from that single Ravager up the top and that T2 PD bank up at the back there. Air engagements kicking off all over the place over the top of Team 1's base there. And we have a nuke launcher online at the back for Heretic. And that nuke in that silo is about half ready. And oh my goodness gracious me, what have we got here? Shio, I would be astonished if you manage it, but look at what I've missed as well. So Andrew getting overwhelmed by support commanders. I just didn't expect that to happen with the amount of static D in the area. That is a critical loss now for Team 1. Support commanders up front, heavily shielded. Rambo preset from Olex. Another Ethota nearly in place. Olex rolling in with a huge amount of skyboxers. That megalith, very welcome sight for Team 1. Izagin bringing it onto the field at exactly the right moment. Olex is strafing, trying to keep them alive for as long as possible. Does manage to pick up a T2 P-Gen and kill an awful lot of build capacity that was hanging out around that Ethota. And a large air fight kicking off as well over the top, and I think that's gone pretty well for Heretic by the looks of things. Izagin with a massive air force a moment ago. No doubt engaging those ASFs over the top of all that flak that was coming in from Olex. Has literally just handed those ASFs. And now Team 1 find themselves in a pretty pickle. Izagin moving up to Andrew's old position with a horde of NGs, trying to scoop that mass as quickly as possible, but what they really do have to worry about, and what distracted us a moment ago, is an experimental missile launcher. I have seen a few of these on Guilecast, obviously played many games with them in, but we've never seen one successfully completed at Guilecast, I don't think. And if we have, I'm pretty sure it's never managed to fire a missile. Some of you hard copy guys out there might be able to tell me if I'm wrong and point out a cast, but I don't think we've ever seen one successfully launch its missile. It's the last game ender to be fired, I think, or to be operational in Guilecast, so I would be thrilled if they manage it. But meanwhile, much more pressing issues. That's if they even manage to get that far. Team 1 losing another team member, and Olex, very questionable gender issues, has decided to build a Novak center, and that is hovering over the top of Team 1's base now. And he can just keep that over the top of that unshielded air factory and prevent any more ASFs from being built. Scathis on the way for Izagin. We do have an operational Soul Ripper. Pock saying to kill the strategic missile defense, and it's good game. can see we did have one further back there belonging to Scipio, but that was destroyed. We've still got this one operational from Izagin, currently paused, which is quite interesting, but it has got one solitary anti-nuke in the clip. That megalith that we saw earlier fighting back against those support commanders has made its way to the ravine up here, and it's just clearing out what's left of Olex's forces, and I think it's dined pretty heavily on all of those skyboxers we saw earlier. You can see 67 kills on board there. Heretic, desperate to kill off that Soul Ripper, is now getting beats from a relatively newly reformed, newly reinforced Air Force belonging to Izagin there, but a wave of strap bombers coming in from Heretic, going after the SMD but not breaching the shields, and more shield gens going up all the time. And look at this, Olex now redirecting that Novak satellite to fire continuously down on top of that SMD. Have we got a nuke? Yes, we do, and we're almost halfway there to getting a second one loaded as well. So Heretic, with his finger poised ready on the button, as soon as they can kill off that strategic missile defense. Support commanders under pressure from the Soul Ripper, and it does make me wonder. I do love the preset addition to FAF, but support commanders are so strong these days. Makes me wonder if they're a little bit overpowered. But in comes some ASFs from both Heretic and Olex, desperate to kill off this Soul Ripper's run before it's begun. Izagin is going to counter with his own Air Force as that Soul Ripper drifts back into friendly territory. See a couple of those T3 mobile anti-air there for Seraphim. That lightning tank firing some of that static energy off towards Heretic's Air Force. But that forward megalith now going toe-to-toe with a Colossus. He's going to bring in the Soul Ripper to help tip the balance in his favor, which he might be able to do, but he might well lose the Soul Ripper in the process as Heretic brings in those ASFs one more time. Down goes the Soul Ripper. He has done enough to keep the megalith alive. And of course, all mass that's on his doorstep potentially. However, it's incredibly difficult to get to right now, what with these support commanders from Olex that keep rolling up to the front door. And that megalith finds it so difficult to chew through all of that shield HP. They could more or less ignore that crab and just get on with reclaiming the corpse of the other one. So what if you're going to lose if you're going to gain so much more in terms of mass for your team? That Scathis, very nearly complete now. 16,500 of 17,500 done. Shield gens holding firm against that Novax. And when that Scathis online, which it is now, I feel sorry for this forward position of Shio and Olex, who've been working so very hard at ecoing and preserving. You can see, look at that, everything in here in range of that Scathis, which is now operational and unloading. Another Novax was on its way. That's not going to get completed. In fact, construction has been paused. All the build capacity moving off instead, I suggest, to help spam out more of these support commanders. Pock, no doubt, referring to the emergence of that Scathis as potential gain leveler. Olex trying to spam up more shield coverage. Definitely doesn't want to be yielding this position if he can help it, but without a plan to deal with that Scathis, that is a doomed position. So he might have to think about withdrawing from it. His shield on his ACU already depleted. Can't tell actually if that Scathis is targeting Olex's ACU on purpose, or whether it's just that the ACU is standing in amongst the key structures. But we've got some T3 artillery fire coming in from somewhere. It looked like Heretic. There it is, right up front, so that'll be well in range of everything. So they have got a little bit of counter artillery fire there. But there's so many power gens. We've got 3 T3P gens up front there for Shio, and 5 up front for Olex. So you can understand why they would be reluctant to give up this position if they can avoid it. Absolutely everything is going into shield production now. We do have strap bombers in production there for Heretic. Question is, can they kill off that Scathis in time? Shield gen also being depleted. No doubt that is the focus of Heretic's T3 Arty. Shield gen blinks on just in time to keep that alive just a little bit. Olex really does need to be careful. He seems to be taking an awful lot of Scathis fire. He's down to 9.5k HP. Shio avoiding the fire for the most part so far, but in comes strap bombers. And they're going for the SMD still, I believe, but definitely not enough to break through that shield coverage. And now we've got extra Seraphim shields from Scipio covering that Scathis. And of course, one solitary T3 Arty is dishing out nowhere near the same level of damage as the Scathis does. Olex still coming under very heavy fire, and he's down into the reds, and down he goes. Olex out of the game at 44 3/4 minutes. I can't believe it, but at least in terms of players, the game is leveled. Astonishing work there with the Scathis. And now Shio finds himself pretty much out in front and on his own. Starts moving his commander, and I don't blame him. "99 kills on that Scathis now that's still firing and still operational. And we've got another SMD online as well over the wreck of the old one from Scipio. No anti-nuke missile in it as yet. I'm really confused as to why he's paused that anti-nuke. I don't see a pausing on it, but it's, I only see the single anti-nuke in there. I don't know what's going on with that. Of course, everything in this area now vulnerable to that Scathis, but look at what's gone on up here. Massive proxy base from Heretic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 land factories operational now. I'd be surprised if he manages to keep it. Megalith making its way up there. There's nothing of any great defensive power. And I'm actually almost as surprised that that crab is not making its way up there as we speak. And there it goes. But I wonder how that experimental nuke launcher is doing. Well, there's your answer. It is complete. Astonishing stuff. And Shio is just basically saying, don't worry about the SMD now, because you know what? A couple of those, and it's not going to make any difference, but they're going to bag one of them anyway. No, they're not. The shield blinks on just in time. Goodness gracious me. This is edge of your seat stuff. We do have one of the other SMDs loaded. Strap bombers come in, though. And they will be successful, so they finally deal with it. But one nuke won't be enough, so will we at least see this one fire? Come on. I just want to see it go. And you can see Heretic determined to deny us our pleasure by launching one of his
strategic launch detected.
2 nukes. There it goes, but I think he's going to be disappointed unless they can find a way to take that out. You can see the pinging going down there. No, no good. That will not break through unless they can find a way out of it. Of course, 2 more nukes about ready to go. One in the silo from that nuke from Heretic, and the other one is a super nuke.
Strategic launch detected.
And there goes the second one from Heretic. And there goes the super nuke from Shio. So that first nuke getting
strategic
shot
launch
down.
Detected.
But the other one will make it. So we're going to see it land at least. And what an entertaining sight that is. Can hardly contain myself. So that first nuke from Heretic is going to land, and it's going to deal, to all intents and purposes, a killing blow. Scipio evades destruction just about. Izagin cannot tell with his comments, but there goes the super nuke, and that is going to destroy just about everything else with that colossal explosion. See that graduated wave of destruction, and there goes Scipio. He does not manage to survive. Izagin somehow still alive back here, but he control cases comm. And that is game at 48 minutes. Very nice work indeed from Team 2. And what a treat that is. Yes, we only saw 1 missile, but they're so rare. People just don't go for them. Lovely to see a player do it. There you go, guys. If you want to be casted more often, drop your commanders into heavy action and build more toys like that, because I like them. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. Anyway, as always, more to come from me in the future, but in the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.